Miranda, whom
I donated. I live in a predominantly Latin neighborhood, and there have been several donation drives. I remember the first one that started, there was a Walgreens next door. They gave me a list and were like, here's what we're looking for. I was like, I'll be back in 20. Charged up like $100 worth of stuff. I was like, here you go. Like, I feel like I need to do something. And so, yeah.
In my other podcast,
we're live.
We're live.
I understand. I was just finishing my thought, but I can stop.
Okay. Well, the thing is, I didn't hear the first part, so.
Oh,
yeah. Context.
I already gave out my Las Vegas thoughts on my other D&D podcast. In case anyone listening wanted to hear those, I had an introductory written segment on my Arcana Philosophical podcast, in which I said, look, Vegas is fine. Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, they're the ones who really need help.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor, Cardhoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. I'm Evan Irwin. We get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Erin Campbell.
You're going to get through that card hoarder part one of these days.
I've gotten through it, but then sometimes things happen. Reuben Bressler.
I don't think he's ever going to get through it.
It's never going to happen. It's just it's a cross I have to bear. All right. So that said, we get started by talking about our giveaway this week, and our giveaway this week will be a copy of the Legend of the Five Rings core set. This was just released by Asmodee North America, or Fantasy Flight, I believe it was. If you remember the old school 90s L5R, this is sort of that world reimagined. It's a totally different design, totally different game. It's a good game. It's got a heck of a learning curve, but once you get there, it's really interesting, and there's a lot of intricate ways. There's different ways to win, and all this other stuff. It has a lot of heavy-hitting design power behind it, and there's already talk of organized play and stuff. And if it's something that if you recall L5R, and L5R was sweet, this is for you. So we'll give that away.
That's the bonsai game, right? Isn't that the one where they randomly yell bonsai?
I think so.
Okay, chat. Help me
Back in the day, when I first started going to Origins Game Fair, the trading card game room was mostly Magic the Gathering. The second most popular game was Pokemon, and the third most popular game was Legend of the Five Rings. And so it's an old school game that I'm excited to see make a comeback, because I've heard that it's great.
Yeah, I remember being at Gen Con, similar to what you said, Reuben, sort of the trading game room, and playing Magic, and just every couple of minutes hearing these guys just yell bonsai at the top of their lungs. And so that's what I think of when I think of Legend of the Five Rings, is bonsai.
It was a monster hit at Gen Con. I think they sold every copy they brought. Copies were really expensive on eBay. It just released, like the wide release was just, I think, last week. So there are lots of copies available. If you wanted to get a full playset of everything, because it's a living card game, there's not booster packs you have to buy. But if you get 3 copies of the core set, you have enough. You literally have what we describe as 4 of everything. Just the way it works. And then future expansions are going to give you literally 4 of every card inside it. So that's giving that away. Fantastic.
Excellent.
For our patrons, who are awesome, and we love them, and they're super Bayesian. We are going to have a stream for those who support us at $20 or higher on Sunday, October 15th at 9 o'clock Eastern. So we'll tweet about it. We'll let you guys know a few more times in a few different ways. But this coming Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern, come hang out with us, because you guys are awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so World Championships. They just gave away $100,000 to the one and only, spoiler alert, Huey Jensen. So if you haven't figured that out or heard that, to an incredibly deserving, incredibly sort of moving, emotional, awesome experience that he dominated the entire weekend.
Yes.
There was no point in which Huey was not at basically the top of the standings after round 3 or 4. Like, it was just...
He started... he was 7-0 after day 1. I think he started 8-0.
He started 12-0.
Did he start 12-0?
He didn't lose a match until he was after 12 wins in a row.
That's crazy.
Just a total crush.
And they were live. We were live for a all Peach Garden Oath top 4. I mean, as much as all could be. A 75% Peach Garden Oath top 4 going into like the last round.
Wow.
It was still mathematically possible for all 3 of Reed, Owen, and Huey to make top 4. Huey's the one that made it. Huey's the one that won it all
Yeah.
in his own hometown of Boston, Massachusetts, which is delightful as well.
Yeah.
Unreal, because he was able to have his family there.
Yeah,
And he looks so much like
and
his dad,
parents are
too.
adorable.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also important, you know, it's a very big deal to have the world champion be an out gay man. That's a very big
That
deal.
too.
You know, we talk about that all the time. You know, representation matters. You know, there are probably people at home, you know, gay men at home who look at this and think, I could never have that, you know, who think I could never get to those heights, I could never get those things. And so to see Huey doing well on such a large stage, you know, does say that you too can find a team that, you know, accepts you and loves you the way that Peach Garden Oath loves him. You too could also get a high profile coverage gig. You know, you too, you know, could be a Hall of Fame member and world champion. Like, it sends a really good message, I think, and is super important.
I think that is super important, and the fact that that Huey has become the world champion and also sort of added his name. I think he's top 5 best all time. Like, he's getting close. He's certainly top 10. But when you add a world to your resume, it makes it even that much more of a statement. And yeah, I mean, defending the home turf is my big takeaway from this, which is he won his Pro Tour in Boston, his team Pro Tour in Boston, and he's won his World Championships in Boston. You know, Huey's just been such a big part of the game and a big name in the game for so long that everyone was so happy that he was the world champion. Like, no one after he won, it was like, nah, that's an amazingly deserving, he's paid all his dues kind of person.
I mean, and Wizards, if they are listening to anyone who has connection there, could you please invite him back automatically next year?
Yeah.
Could you do that? Because it was really embarrassing that BBD wasn't there. Like, it's really just awkward.
I'm torn on that because, and this could be an impromptu red zone.
This could be impromptu.
I'm torn on giving an automatic invite to the previous champion, because we do have that in some sports, but it's also not in other sports, right?
Sure.
Like, so in the big major sports, you don't get an automatic pass to the top, you know, what is it in the NFL, 12. You don't get an automatic pass to the playoffs. Right. But for tennis, for example, or for golf, you're invited for, you know, some amount of time to the various other championship events. You get some amount of buys in the major events. So I'm a little bit torn on that. And it's different for Magic because we have such a comparatively small playoff. Like, the golf champion players championship is like 70 people. So you can obviously invite last year's champion. And that's also by last year's champion, that means the player who had the best overall year, which we already invite. We already invite the player of the year. Mm-hmm. So inviting last year's champion, while it looks better and sounds better, I'm not sure is a precedent I really want Magic to have to live up to, because we've had Magic pros fall off the map all the time. You know, people go from gold to disappearing, and you know, if we have this might be a weird example, but you know, Stanislav Sivka had won his Pro Tour and then won Player of the Year, and then the next year I just decided to not play Magic. Like, that's an awkward thing to have to deal with. So I'm of two minds on it. Obviously, for me personally, I would have liked BBD to get an invite because he's a personal friend of mine, and I know how hard he works. And even in this tournament, he was working hard. He went up to Boston to help his friends from Roanoke, Brad Nelson and company, to do better in the tournament. And so I know how much he loves the game, but I'm not 100% on the automatic invite.
And I understand that. And all I'm saying is that I don't think he would take anything away from it. I agree there's sort of like the Sivka factor. But the other factor for Stanislav was that he just wasn't getting the money. He wouldn't get that
Sure.
Hearthstone money. Because that Hearthstone money has a big old pile over there.
He's getting that
MTG
Hearthstone
money.
now.
Like, there's like there's Huey that has like that Hearthstone money, and everybody else who doesn't have that Hearthstone money anymore. And so, you know,
and Team Musashi, who got some of that Hearthstone money.
A little bit.
Can we talk about, am I the only one who thought that was sort of awkward? And maybe it's me, maybe I didn't research the event enough, but I didn't know that there was this separate team event. Like I was keeping up with Worlds. Like
they certainly didn't advertise it.
Right, like I was keeping up with the Huey progress, and I remember waking up Sunday morning, and I look at Twitter the first thing I do when I get up in the morning, and I see the Pro Tour account saying, tune in for Team Genesis versus Team Musashi, and I was like, Huey's not on either of those teams. Where'd Huey go? Right. And they were like, oh, we'll get to that, but we're doing this team thing first. And I was like, did I not? And it seemed like chat was very confused too, where chat was like, we came here to root for Huey, we came here for the top 4. What is this event? And it just felt very shoehorned in. Even the coverage for that particular little side event or that particular event didn't feel as sharp. It just felt very separate from the main event. And so I didn't know if I was the only one who felt that way. And if not, I hope they do a better job of integrating that in the future, because it stood out a lot.
So
yeah, it was a little bit shoehorned in, and it did feel like they needed to advertise that a little bit more.
So let's pull up the website. Okay, so the website right now, you pull up the World's coverage. If you Google World's coverage, if you go to events, it's right there. Huey Jensen holding the thing, holding the butt ugly trophy that makes me sad. Guy won $100,000 check, whatever. Huey's great. So you have
the
Huey,
trophy
right?
is literally flipping you off.
It's ridiculous. But video coverage, you go past the video coverage thing, Twitter, Facebook, article coverage. This is all about Huey. This is what Huey did. You have the top moments. You have the top 4 deck list. Blah blah blah. Way at the bottom, after you go past the see more option of articles, is congratulations to Musashi. So
yeah,
come on, this was. Yeah. I don't think you want to run that back, because right under that is the 2017 World Championship competitors. Exactly, as if you don't give a crap about the team thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
which is weird because of how many resources and how much energy they pumped into creating this team series. Why wouldn't they want to advertise the final? That is kind of strange.
And as much as they've been leaning on the team thing in the future, look at how many team events are happening next year. Right. That was a big factor into an announcement we'll talk about a little later. They've really been leaning on it, and then you have this one opportunity to really sell it, and you put it, you sweep it under the rug. Like there's a mixed message there.
I think what I would suggest is that there needs to be 2 different events. If you're trying to make this team thing just the bomb diggity, and it's all about the teams, it's all about the story of the teams and where they came from and blah, 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 and how hard they worked, make it its own thing, because look how shoehorned this is. This is just awkward.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I swear to God, I turned on the stream and I'm like, why are we watching team events now? Huh? And like different people from Worlds were in the teams, and some were in the teams weren't in Worlds, and it's like, I guess there's Seth Manfield and 2 people who I don't recognize, so sure, why not? I mean, like, or I think it was Seth and maybe Brad and somebody else, but like the point is, I was like, where did this come from? And I know they're putting money into it, they're putting time into it, they're putting resources into make this a big deal, and I think it's really helped catch on. I think it's really exciting, and people have stepped up that cookie. They're actually wearing things now to Pro Tours that aren't like bed sheets and or t-shirts that are ripped and stained. Like, it's pretty cool. But sticking these guys at the bottom of an article list under the see more option, not giving them like basically equal footing. You know what I mean? Like if it was a half Huey, half team shot, that's different. But you literally buried it.
Do you think that could it be a North American bias? Could that be a case? It had Genesis won instead?
I don't know. It's
I don't
possible.
I mean I don't think so, because previous Japanese world champions have been at the top of the page. I think this is just like a mishandling of what they had.
I think this is a clear first run of the out the gate.
Yeah.
Not so great. How do you fix it? Don't do it like this, okay? It
give
just
some amount
different.
Of equal booking. Yeah.
Because it definitely felt like they were totally just a sideshow. Like, let's just get through this.
We didn't
move on.
We didn't even talk about it in last week's episode. It just was completely ignored by us, partially because it was completely ignored by everybody.
Because I saw very little any chatter. Yeah. Wizards didn't talk about it that much. I mean, okay. Anyway, there were some incredible documentaries that aired during the broadcast. Enter the Battlefield was back, and they were making incredible segments. I didn't get to see the one on Jerry Thompson yet, but I heard it was fantastic.
Yeah,
I saw the one on Jerry.
and I saw the one for Neutral Ground, which BDM, you got to watch that just for BDM's haircuts and or facial hair. So good. It's just, it's so good. He was rocking it, which was really fantastic. But that said, the winning decks, I think it's a fine top 4. I think Temur Energy, which Huey played and won with. There was Ramunap Red and 2 blue-black controls. Perfect. So that's cool. I think that's fine. I think there's already people who are like, energy is too good, energy is broken in Magic. I'm like, dude, the set's been out a couple weeks. It's cool. Like
and this was a very unique meta game too. Exactly. I think that this isn't. I think this isn't like the pro. Well, 2 things. One, I think this isn't the Pro Tour that sort of you have an incentive to sort of bring a crazy brew, or you have incentive to kind of put a deck on the map. I think this is Worlds. I think this is the kind of event where you don't want to get cute. You want to play what you know is good. And also, I really don't think we had anybody in the roster. The roster was quite small for Worlds. I don't really think we had anybody in that list that was known for taking risks or really bringing exciting brews. There were no Adrian Sullivans there. There were no Chapins there. People who
no Chapins, no Guillaume Wafo Tapas. I mean, we had Shota, to be fair.
And God bless Shota again. With the Shota hadn't played a game of Standard, again threw together Grixis Control and was like, let's do this thing. And God bless him, because nobody else could do that.
Shota, man,
we had Shota and we had Sam Black, and he's the only other one that maybe could have been convinced to bring a brew. And honestly, Donald Smith brought Treasure Red, and that was the closest we had to a brew, and he ended up going like 4 and 8 or whatever. But you're right, a format like this, particularly with the pro points involved, like going 7 and 7 is like top 4ing a GP. Mm-hmm. So going out on a limb there's a lot less reward and a lot more risk here. When you're at the Pro Tour and you're a top pro, all you care about is making top 8. So you're willing to pick a deck that's either going to top 8 or bomb the first day. Here, you're rewarded for picking a deck that's going to end up in the middle. So I'm not too surprised, certainly not too surprised. And also the small format, you know exactly who you're playtesting against kind of thing. I was a little surprised that there wasn't more blue-white control, because we'd seen it at the Open the previous weekend, and I thought that the pros might use that as a stepping stone to try to go forward but also in tandem with blue-black control. But they decided that they didn't need the white answers. And speaking of which, there were no white cards registered at Worlds this year. No white cards. 0. No Ixalan's bindings, no Settle the Wreckage, none.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of incredible.
And the scuttlebutt about that is because, you have to be able to deal with Hazoret, and you have to be able to deal with the Scarab God, and those are incredibly difficult permanents to deal with, and the most efficient answer is Essence Scatter. And then other efficient options include things like Vraska's Contempt and discard spells, and Ixalan's Binding is just not the answer that people want to be using. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
There was a card that Saffron Olive was talking about today. I believe it was from Amonkhet and or Hour Devastation. It's sort of like a mini Faith's Fetters. It's enchant a creature. You like gain 3 life. It's for 3 mana.
Highest Interdiction?
No, that's the new one from Ixalan. But anyway, it's a white and 2 generic mana. You gain 3 life. It enchants a creature. That creature can't attack or block or use any of its activated
Desert's
abilities.
Hold.
Desert's Hold. Yeah, there you go.
If you have a desert, you gain 3 life. Yeah.
Fair enough. So if you have a desert, sure, whatever. But yeah, basically, essentially, it's like super pacifism, Faith Fetters asking stop doing that, and it's legendary, so that's nice. But of course, they could play another one and sacrifice it. And who knows if that actually works? I guess Ixalan's Binding seems to be the best option for answering scary things.
Yeah, but it's 4 mana. You already get hit by a Hazoret a lot of the time. It's a little bit unwieldy. It's sorcery speed, obviously. I mean, if you're playing a 4 mana sorcery speed answer on their Hazoret, they still have a bunch of rest of the board in play, which is kind of awkward.
Right.
It's a good answer to the Scarab God. Although the answer to the Scarab God that Peach Garden came up with was Confiscation Coup. You just take it.
That was so good. That thing
which
did
is amazing.
Work.
Yeah.
I saw multiple blowouts thanks to that card. However, I think the real winner from this weekend was the Scarab God. This is sort of the coming out party of this is the best creature in Standard.
$40+. I think it was $42 as of the other day.
It is ridiculous. I saw this thing doing crazy stuff. Like you get in the late game, you put the trigger on the lose life scry trigger on the stack. You're stealing stuff. You're getting back hostage takers. Like it's just nasty.
Card is
bananas.
We discussed this in our Temur episode this week when you brought it up, Evan. It's just like, it's a 5/5 for 5 in blue-black that can't really die.
No.
Like, erase the rest of the text. That's already, like, pretty playable. Then you get the scry and life drain effect and the embalming, your hostage takers effect. It's absurd.
I want to take a quick time out here for our chat, who notes that it's Magic Mike's anagram time, where Reuben Bressler is Rebel Beer Runs. I am never a win, and Erin is Blimp Cleaner.
Hello.
I don't know what that means. We're gonna move on.
That was my nickname in college.
Yeah, so. That's the name I danced under. Never a win is nice.
Never a win. There you go.
I wish I could relate.
Now, for those, thank you. For those who want
we'll get to that in a minute.
Now, if you recall and listened to the show last week or tuned in, we had a little Google Doc going for our draft, and it turns out that Reuben, you are the winner with 60 match points.
I am so powerful in this format of drafting against you two that I might have to be restricted.
It's a little nuts. Have you lost any of these?
I think I lost one.
Okay, I think
I lost exactly one.
Sure.
Yeah, it's pretty rare. I feel like I was surprised to get close on this one. Although I ended up with 60, Evan had 58, and Erin had 42. I was mostly taken out of my taken out of the doldrums by my 24 points from Owen Turtenwald, which, tied with Seth Manfield on Aaron's team, was the most of our drafted group. But yeah, had any of us just decided to draft all of Peach Garden Oath, we would have just demolished the field, which would have been hilarious.
It's true. Yeah. Aaron had Seth Manfield, Lucas Esper Berthold, and Sam Pardee, who were 20, 12, and 6, respectively. I had Yuya Watanabe, Brad Nelson, and Christian Calcano, who were 18, 19, and 21 match points, respectively. And Reuben, with the winning team, had PVDDR, Owen Turtenwald, and Donald Smith for 21, 24, and 15. Yeah. So that was fun. And it's weird because we're in this... and correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first Pro Tour, at least in certainly recent memory, and we're talking like 10, 15 years memory, that hasn't happened 2 weeks after the release of the set. I think they used to be a little bit more freeform with it.
Correct.
Maybe back in the day.
They went back to this freeform style now. We talked about this when it was announced. Right. They're going to go back to this weird, sort of freeform style where the brewers aren't necessarily always at the strict advantage. Sometimes people who are format regulars / tweakers, the Jerry Thompsons of the world, if you will, are going to have a little bit more of a chance because they'll have a little bit more of the set being out and not necessarily always going with the Pat Chapins of the world. I mean, obviously both of them have won Pro Tours and are both spectacularly talented and could, play Magic with a Nuno deck and probably top 8 a Pro Tour, but it certainly is going to add a different wrinkle to the next Pro Tour.
It happens on November 3rd through 5th. So we're looking at almost another month of standard results, standard events, standard articles coming out before anyone actually plays at Pro Tour Ixalan, which is going to be really interesting.
I will also be at that Pro Tour as well.
That's Bilbao, right?
Nice.
No, Albuquerque is the first week in November.
Ah, yes, Albuquerque.
Yeah, I'll be there for doing work with Cardhoarder, so come say hi if you anyone's watching and you happen to qualify.
Sorry. That'll be the first time that I believe it'll be the first time that Magic Mics will broadcast from the Mountain Time Zone. We need to get our time zone practice in.
Oh man!
So it wouldn't be a Magic event. It certainly wouldn't be a large Magic event without a controversy, and we got ourselves one. Turns out that there are, at this point, the sponsorship sort of set up, the sponsorship industry of Magic right now is set up to where, you want to have logos on clothes, you want to have logos on sleeves. And a lot of the sleeves that are being manufactured with logos on them are glossy sleeves. And let me bring up a screenshot someone posted on Reddit. And could you tell me basically anything that Brad Nelson has on the right-hand side of that thing? I don't know, because you can definitely see there's matte sleeves on the left and there's glossy sleeves on the right. And I don't know if it happened, but I believe it did. Somebody, word got back to the coverage crew, because I don't recall seeing any glossy sleeves after a certain point in the broadcast. Yeah. And I think that was essentially mandated that, you need matte sleeves for coverage because it just screws up the shot. Like lighting a Magic event that you want to broadcast, trust me, is difficult enough. It is really, really tough. And I know, Jeremy Knoll and all the SCG Live guys, they struggled with how to exactly make each space work, and there's different convention centers, and everything's different, and, room sizes are different, and all kinds of crazy stuff. So if they could mandate matte sleeves for those playing on the Pro Tour, that would alleviate some, if not most, of the issues right now that are really glaring, for lack of a better word.
People also had a lot of thoughts about the music. There was this persistent background music that was happening through much of the broadcast when coverage was doing their thing, when deck checks were happening. It was this very dynamic, almost like battle music of dun 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 dun, and chat would not stop talking about it all weekend long. Some people thought it was really great and contributed to this sort of dynamic atmosphere if we're in Ixalan exploring raw, and then other people were like, this is hella distracting, like make it stop.
Yeah, the music was pretty distracting. I mean, there's a number of things that kind of irked me. We've been talking about how good Magic coverage had been developing over the past several months, and then this was just like a huge step backwards. They had the glare issues, and their immediate solution was to do the 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
Recording from your local F&M angle, which bothered me a little bit. But I guess that's like a fine fix if that's your only solution. But that's like what they do at GPs. I mean, this is a $12 billion company. Let's figure it out, right? They also, for some reason, I just don't get why they can't stream in 1080. I forgot that they just refuse to go higher than 720. In fact, I'm not sure that I was the only amount I watched was on my phone, so I wasn't streaming it at highest potential. But it's possible they didn't even go above 480, which is ridiculous because
no, I think they were definitely 720 at least.
Were they 720? Okay. Yeah, well, my phone was on 480, which is my bad. But if you can't get to 1080 and you're Hasbro, right? Let's. This is your big event, and then you have lighting issues that Loading Ready Run solves immediately. Now, I get that they have a professional recording studio, but again, you're Hasbro. Let's figure this out. It's kind of inexcusable.
Well, again, for me, the fact that there's no space that all the Pro Tours happen is silly.
Also crazy.
It's silly.
We have this esports arena in Los Angeles now, where they're going to do the OWL, the Overwatch League, I'm not expecting a $500 million to get poured into anything, but we've got a couple of esports arenas around the world and around the United States that can hold this kind of event. 24 people isn't a Pro Tour. We can fit all these people into one stadium. It's not exactly a spectator or a convention kind of atmosphere either. And I think that you can redirect a lot of resources in that direction. And please, for the love of God, just make it visually acceptable. If a 17-year-old girl in Japan can film herself eating froyo in 1080, there's no reason that Hasbro can't let the Magic World Championships stream in 1080.
Yeah. Before we change topics, I do want to give a particular shout out to Maria Bartholdi, who continues to kill it on coverage. And can we discuss those looks?
Yeah.
The first day, she showed up with a dinosaur
dress.
Oh.
It was amazing.
What? There were dinosaurs on her dress. The second day, she showed up in this goth, dark lip kind of thing. And then the last day, she had this cool for the summer Greek goddess updo. She was killing me every single day. I was like, Maria, I can't breathe. You got to give us a moment to just deal with what's going on here. And so shout out to her for just bringing it every single day and every single way.
It's very easy to forget when you listen to Magic the Amateuring that Maria is a gosh darned professional.
Literal Emmys, plural.
Yeah, actual Emmys.
Professionalism. She is not on camera, not looking camera ready. She's bringing it every minute, and I'm completely here for it.
That's fantastic. So we are going to move on to a new topic here. Wizards decided to announce Explorers of Ixalan in kind of a unique way, I guess. It's weird that they just said
the announcement, just for the record.
They're just here's a video, and here's some stuff. For those who don't know, Explorers of Ixalan, I believe it's a $70 product or $65 product, where you get 4 decks, and they're all themed to the tribes of Ixalan. and you have these game pieces that are in front of you in a hexagonal shape, where all these little tiles get put in front of you, and they have different costs on the back of them. And so there's some for 1 mana, 1 generic mana, 3 generic mana, and 6 generic mana. And of course, their abilities slide and scale, in the same way. Some of them will be a quest that says the next time you deal combat damage to the player on your right, draw a card. Others will be sites that say stuff that happens all the time. At the beginning of your instep, you may discard a card, and if you do, draw a card. You just have that ability forever. Or there's an event, for example, for each opponent, destroy up to 1 target permanent that player controls. So there's different effects. You have to pay for them, with just good old-fashioned mana, so you can flip them up, and either they happen immediately, or you keep them, or you take them, or whatever. And between those things, they kind of add a board game-ish type feel to this. And that's really cool. I mean, Wizards has certainly kind of they've kind of flirted with board games in the past. They tried to do the board game thing, and it failed for a whole variety of reasons. But it failed. At the end of the day, it didn't work. And so here we are with another kind of sort of toe in the water. Just a little board gamey, little board gamey.
This looks super cool to me. I think that these are super neat. Visually, it looked like, I was like, are they just combining this with Settlers of Catan? But then eventually I realized that it looks visually very similar to a game called Heroscape.
It basically was Heroscape.
Yeah, it looks a lot like, Heroscape was also a Wizards company, right? Or Wizards brand. And which was like a wargaming kind of tessellated map situation. Mm-hmm. But this is very simple, very easy to understand. I really enjoy the way that this was spelled out and planned. And I'm honestly, I think it's a pretty obvious next step for a casual playing environment. I would be excited to play this. This looks very cool.
Well, one of the coolest things about the set is the reprints are fantastic. There are some monster casual cards that have some serious value, such as, and I was not really prepared for this, Aggravated Assault, which apparently got up to be like a $20, $25, $30 card, something crazy.
Right.
Quicksilver Amulet, which was like $10. Time Warp, which is a huge one.
Time Warp's a big deal.
Threads of Disloyalty, Merfolk Sovereign, Blatant Thievery was another one that was just getting stupidly expensive because there was only one printing of it.
Right.
Adaptive Automaton, Shared Animosity. You also get a Day of Judgment in there, along with Vanquisher's Banner and Beacon of Immortality. Again, these are, if you don't really care or know what any of those cards do, it's cool. But if you do, you probably play a lot of casual Magic because they're all-stars in that format. You also get, Regisaur Alpha. That's pretty cool.
Sure.
Yeah,
that's a $10 card.
I learned about Automaton the other day. I was trying to build a commander deck, and I try to keep my EDH decks inexpensive. And I remember I was trying to look for, I think I was trying to build with Zombie Lords, and all the Zombie Lords are really expensive. Like Death Baron's a $21 card, and Lord of the Undead is $11. And I was like, that's a little steep. Let's see if we can go for something cheaper. And I remembered the Automaton, and then I was like, oh, that's expensive too. Like, why?
Yeah, all those things are just crazy expensive, and it's just because, you only really need one of them for your EDH deck, sure, but then thousands of people playing EDH multiplied across kitchen tables all over the world. This product in particular releases on November 24th, so it's coming in about, 6 weeks or so.
Yeah,
at
really
some point,
cool product. This is I don't often say that this, even for the products that are designed to be gifts, I'm often like, this is not a good gift. This one's a good gift. I like this one a lot. So if you're in the market for a $65 gift for somebody that plays Magic, this is a good. Hey, look, some people are gonna, rather than buying them a new pair of slacks or whatever, this is a really quality product.
Slacks.
Do you say lady friend too? Are you that guy, Reuben?
Look, I can say pants when I'm referring to pants.
What he's trying to say is yes. He's trying to say yes. He is
my
that
lady
guy.
friend and I.
But
First
the fact
of all,
you're going to get,
I don't have any lady friends. No.
you're going to get 50 game tiles with it. So there's going to be so many different effects that when you build this kind of board, this island that you're exploring on, it's going to be different every time. So they have that replayability in there. There's a ton of awesome reprints. It really does feel like a great product. So kudos to Wizards, whoever put that together. I think they did a great job.
Yeah, agreed.
Fan-freaking-tastic. So, and I will note, thank you, Trick Jarrett, for fixing the worst hashtag I've ever seen from Wizards. I mean, like, the bar, man. This bar was high. The worst one ever. The original hashtag for Explorers of Ixalan was hashtag MTGE02.
What?
I ain't making that up. What?
Felt like a placeholder.
Seriously?
Like, well, we already had Ixalan, and we already have Explorers of Ixalan.
Or Rivals of Ixalan.
Explorers 2.
Right. I don't know. Either way, thank you, Trick. Yesterday he tweeted that, he said, obviously it's not a great hashtag. We're updating the info to have the hashtag MTGEXL, which actually makes some sense.
Right.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Wow.
We do.
Whew. Okay. So we're going to move on here. We're not even past the first pick. You know what? We got a lot of cool topics tonight. There was an update to the Magic the Gathering logo. The official logo for our game is changing to the one that's on your screen right now. Thanks to Hipster of the Coast for gathering that together. And it's not, the back of the card is not changing. 100% it's going to be the same old thing we've seen since 93. That's how Magic works. Can't do that. But the official, like branding stuff, and they're going to put it on for MTG Arena. This is the new shiny. It's got texture. It's got the Planeswalker logo. It's moved the Gathering over a little bit. The font's really cool. This is sort of the, we're putting on our big boy pants. We're going to show up next to the big brands, and we're not going to look like we were designed in 1993.
Right.
I mean, kind of is
You're
what it is.
wrong. Yeah.
But you can't change the back of the card. So no matter what happens, we're going to have Deckmaster and that little blue check mark forever.
Adorable.
Just adorable. Now for MTG Arena, I 1000% expect to have different card backs.
Yes.
Different card backs are unlocked. Different card backs are earned by doing certain things. You get a card back for going to blah blah events, yada yada. We'll talk about MTG Arena here in a little bit because they had a new Q&A and it was awesome. Erin, tell us a little bit about Team Cardhoarder Brazil.
Oh man, I'm so excited about this. So for those who don't know, my job is Magic related. I'm the community manager for Cardhoarder. Hey Cardhoarder, if you're watching. And we've been working on this for the past couple of weeks. So last month we were approached by Willie Edel, beloved Magic the Gathering Hall of Fame member, patron saint of Brazilian Magic, Willie Edel. And he had approached us about the fact that he and about a half a dozen of his countrymen from Brazil were without a team. They were a part of the Dex Army, which folded into Team Haruruya, and these guys didn't have a home. And it basically boiled down to if they didn't get a sponsor, they could not afford to compete because Brazilian Magic players face very significant barriers when it comes to playing Magic, usually cost-related ones because Brazil's very far away and things of that nature. And so they're all silver pros, the people that Willie brought with him, and they just needed a home. We had many discussions with them and their manager, Tiago, who's a very sweet guy, and we came to the conclusion that we're going to form a team around them, Team Cardhoarder Brazil, in addition to Team Cardhoarder, which is our North American guys, and we will be working with them to send them to the Pro Tours, and they will be going to GPs and representing us and representing their country, and we're so excited to work with them. Willie is so great. Willie also was gracious enough to appear on our podcast, which is rare. Like, when's the last time you can say you heard Willie on a podcast? And he kind of elaborated a little bit on how he feels about representing Brazilian Magic and gave us an insight as to what they go through and also how great it is. And give it a listen. He's just so positive. His positivity is infectious. And when you listen to that and when you see the way that he views community, it's very admirable. And we were very eager to sort of attach ourselves to that and to work with him.
That's awesome. So that brings us on to gathering the townsfolk. Yes, we had a bunch of topics in the first pick because that's how we do things. However, we're going to start with Erin again here. Somebody won the Vintage Challenge. Somebody got 100 treasure boxes or whatever, treasure chests, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know how this happened. Yeah, so for those who don't know, there are these challenges on Magic Online that happen every weekend on Saturday and Sunday. There's a vintage one, there's a modern one, there's a 1v1 commander one, and they're premier events, so they're good events. They're usually about 6 or 7 rounds, and the prize payout is quite good. And the boyfriend did not have his deck, still doesn't know what he's playing for Eternal Weekend. It's next week, people. And so he was trying to come up with a deck, and I was like, baby, you should just build something, do a challenge, get you a little practice. And I was trying to be the supportive girl girlfriend, and I was like, I'll even do it with you. Like, I'll fire up the laptop and we'll do a thing. We'll get Popeyes. It'll be a thing. And so we're playing. Before I know it, he's 2-4 and I'm 5-1. And I'm just like, I don't know what's happening here. And so I end up making top 8, and I'm usually the one who fails in the first round of top 8. I never make it past that. In PPTQs, anything. I usually just crap the bed. It never goes any further. And then I won the next 3. And I finished the day 8-1, and before I knew it, I won the whole damn thing. And I beat very good people. Anurag Das is a legacy staple. He was playing Landsill. I faced him in the finals. He was very sweet, and I won a full set of Ixalan. I won 100 treasure chests, 500 play points, and a couple Mox qualifier points as well. And it was huge. My tweet went viral in which I announced that I won. I got a lot of love from people. I also went on to crush in the VSL last night. I went 3-0, undefeated.
Same deck?
With the same deck. I played Hollow Dredge. And I mean, when I say I went 3-0, I didn't even go to a game 3. Like, I was 2-0, nice. 2-0, and 2-0. Like, I wasn't here for that. And so
everybody.
I beat everybody. I beat Eric Froelich. What? Paul Rietzel? Like,
Paul
real
Rietzel.
Good players. Yeah. So I've been running incredibly hot. And Baytalk, love her. But yeah, I've been running incredibly hot lately, and I hope that this follows me to Eternal Weekend.
Crush.
You are 11-1 over your last 12 competitive matches with this deck.
Yeah.
Seems decent.
Yeah.
Have you convinced the boyfriend to perhaps also sleeve up Dredge?
There's only so many bazaars to go around, buddy.
Look, man, you can borrow from friends, or
No, but he prefers
favors.
he prefers to cheat his creatures in a different way. He loves him some show and tell. He loves him some Oath of Druids. So I bring him from the ground up, and he plays him from hand. So we get our
from the top down.
Yeah. So, but no, the deck feels really, really good. I've been playing Hollow Dredge, which really leans on Hollow One, which I talked about before. Right. Casting Gurmag Angler is a really good thing, and it's great to see it get attention, and it's just great. I'm just really happy.
Let me ask you a question. We're expecting a banned and restricted list update next Tuesday? Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Something in the middle of this month. We're expecting a banned and restricted list update, and next week is Eternal Weekend. Are you expecting any, as the resident competitive Magic player on the podcast, hey, look, I'm telling you, that's the reality of the situation when you win 100 treasure chests, lady.
Yeah.
So, do you expect any changes to Vintage or Legacy, not necessarily based on your own finish there, but in how the format's been changing since the Monastery Mentor switch a couple months ago?
No, I think the format's in a really good place, actually. I certainly don't think Dredge is going to contribute to that at all. We're still able to be kept in check fairly easily. There aren't too many people who are putting up results with it. But no, I think the paradoxical decks are being kind of held down to where they need to be. We're seeing Leovold kind of rise as a response to that sort of strategy, to counter people drawing all the cards. We're seeing Mono White Eldrazi do its thing again. No, I think the format's in a very good place right now. If there is something, I certainly don't see it. I know that there's been some talk about Legacy feeling kind of stale lately, but I'm not sure if that's something that is really, I'm not sure that requires bans or anything like that. I think it's just people, just feeling kind of bored, with Legacy. And no, both formats feel really, really good. And I'm looking forward to getting my fill of both of them at EW.
And
excellent.
Well, I think can we just get on the hashtag ban brainstorm? Can we do that already? Can we just go ahead and?
It's funny. I never used to be one of those people. I used to hear Jeff Hoogland talk about that with regards to Legacy, and I always used to sort of scoff at that, like, "Oh, Jeff, you're so crazy." But it's so interesting when you come from Vintage. It's banned in Vintage. Ponder's banned in Vintage. Lion's Eye Diamond restricted. Thank you.
Restricted.
But it's so interesting to go from Vintage, which I've been playing a lot of, to Legacy, where it's fine. 4 Ponders is fine. 4 Brainstorms is fine.
Because you're not digging into Moxen.
Right, but it does say something where in one format these cards are considered as good as Moxen, but then to go to Legacy where it's sort of a free-for-all, it does feel a little odd.
It is certainly a little odd.
Something about gooses and ganders goes here. But one of the things I wanted to point out really quickly was Deeproot Champion from Ixalan showed up from Paul Rietzel's deck, which I thought was really cool. So if you knew what the card Quirion Dryad does, it's from Plane Shift, it's a rare from Plane Shift for a green and generic mana. It's a 1/1 that whenever you cast a white, blue, black, or red spell, basically a non-green spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. However, Deeproot Champion kind of ups that ante a little bit. It's still a green and a generic mana for a 1/1. However, this is now a Merfolk Shaman, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. So non-creature, that means anything green that's not a creature. Anything that, like a Mox, for example, or a Gush, or an Ancestral Recall, or a Time Walk. Like everything just puts counters on this thing, and it's one of those, they used to call them Miracle Grow decks. Is that correct?
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. Put your history hats on, everyone. It's time,
y'all.
It's time for a trip back in time in Magic the Gathering history. So, in 1997, Allan Comer, who's a Hall of Famer, that many of you probably haven't even heard of, came up with the concept of a deck called Turbo Xerox that was a mono blue deck that used Ophidian and bounce spells and was basically the first tempo deck that turned spells into part of the mana base, is the best way to explain it. And that was the roots of Miracle Grow. Miracle Grow was also invented by Allan Comer and also popularized by Alex Schwartzman, who they used cantrips like Brainstorm and Opt, and things like Gush and Land Grant and Sleight of Hand as part of the mana base. The deck only had 10 lands in it, and Quirion Dryad was the way that you took advantage of that lack of lands, because by the end of the game, you're top decking spells, even though they're slightly lower power level than your opponent, who, while he or she has higher level spells, drawing more lands in the process. So this is a deck that's been around for a while. It's seen multiple different types of iterations. This was the roots of the original Threshold decks. Various types of decks over the years have had the Grow moniker attached to them, and Deeproot Champion is the heir to that throne.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, he said that the reason why he chose this is for nostalgia reasons. I think he said he won one of his first PPTQs or PTQs with that style of deck, and so he really wanted to tap into that. And also shout out to Rachel Agnes. She brought Hostage Taker. Nice. She was playing Grixis Thieves, which is a known quantity in Vintage, and again, just being able to it deals with things in a very unique way. I know Blightsteel Colossus is a very big nightmare in Vintage, and you can exile it with your Hostage Taker, and you probably won't ever cast it, but it does play into the Thieves theme, and so I was happy to see that happen.
Awesome. So gonna move on here to Blogatog, where Mark Rosewater answers all the questions. He answers infinite questions.
Do it, Reuben.
So Reuben, if you see it linked right there,
I do.
There is a question. I'll go ahead and ask the question.
Sure.
And Reuben, if you will give us the Rosewater answer here. Doop Boop Doop asked.
Yep. Wait, who asked the question?
Doop Boop Doop.
Doop Boop Doop.
Doop Boop Doop. What
on Blogatog?
What Planeswalker redirection rule change ?
Starting soon, we're taking away the Planeswalker redirection rule, and will instead tell you on the card specifically whether the card can target Planeswalkers. All of the old relevant cards will have player changed to player or Planeswalker.
Thank you, Reuben Rosewater.
That's right.
That was pretty sweet. So one of the things, this actually came up at one point, I believe it was on Twitter, and Aaron Forsyth was saying something like, the original Lightning Bolt says deal 3 damage to any target, or to one target. I need to go back.
Which now the Oracle text of is right, which is great.
I know, right? So that would be pretty terrific. I'm actually pulling up here now. So Alpha says Lightning Bolt does 3 damage to one target, and he's like, is there anything wrong with that? Like, it's a target. Right. Can you target a Planeswalker? Yes. Can you target a player? Yes. Creature? Yes. Awesome. So I think that's awesome.
The purpose of the Planeswalker damage redirection change was as a result of playtesting showing that they needed to have the rephrasing on the card, and for various archaic reasons that they've decided that they don't need anymore. They've just sort of changed their mind, and this was first sort of brought to attention because of a card called Burning Sun's Avatar that showed up during the arena previews. Has different wording than the card Burning Sun's Avatar when you hold it in your hand. It has the Lightning Bolt any target kind of wording on it. So I like this. This is another streamlining of the rules, taking it back down to its simplistic style roots. You don't need all that reminder text. You know, you don't need clone to have 75,000 words on it. All you have to do is say when it comes into play, it's a thing. That's what they're doing. They're just bringing it back to the roots. They're just, you know, simplifying everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's really cool because if you look back over the past 10 years or so now, you can really see how Planeswalkers have just fundamentally changed the game that we play. Like,
absolutely.
They're huge in every set release. They are incredibly impacted on metagames. When they're too good, we always figure it out and find it out and suffer as a result. And if they're not good enough, we usually laugh at them and then we never mention them again because they never show up. The idea that like everything is sort of to start to kind of work with Planeswalkers. Planeswalkers kind of just showed up, you know what I mean? And they made them work. Now they're kind of changing the way things are working to benefit them, to give them more sort of prominence. And you know, they're not going anywhere anytime soon for those who don't like them that much.
Right.
So, speaking of Planeswalkers and or MTG Arena and or rule changes, thank you to Hipsters of the Coast for providing the coverage on the MTG Arena stream, which I was not able to catch. There's a few really interesting points that they made on the stream about MTG Arena, and we'll just sort of kind of run down the list here. So first is, there will be some format in which you can use your rotated standard cards in MTG Arena.
It might be a version of Modern that starts with Ixalan several years down the line or something like that.
Right. Or they could have good old-fashioned Modern, and then they could have Modern remaster packs, just like they did Tempest remaster packs. They can do Modern Masters on MTG Arena. Whatever they want to do is obviously fine and great and fantastic, but there's a million different ways they can go with it. It's just what do they choose to go with. However,
they could have Frontier, Evan.
Oh,
Frontier.
Remember that flash in the pan?
We could have Frontier.
Was the hot new thing for
like
5 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
They will not confirm that any other limited format other than Draft will be included at launch. No sealed. There very well could never be sealed on MTG Arena.
Which I'm fine with.
That makes me sad.
That
makes me sad. Like, no, like I'm not a drafter. You know, me drafting is the equivalent of putting your forehead on a baseball bat, spinning in a circle, and trying to walk a straight line. I can't do it. Like, I can't.
Yeah.
I always thought that sealed was like a time saver. Like they would every time there's a sealed event, it's like we would rather have draft, but we don't have infinite time, so here's some packs, right? That's always what sealed felt like to me. I never there's a reason why sealed isn't at the Pro Tour. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I love Team Sealed. Obviously, Team Sealed's not going to be a thing in Arena, but you know, I'm okay with there not being any sealed personally.
They are. And this one really got me. They are discussing / trying to integrate physical product purchases with the digital rewards. Wizards,
great, we did it.
It's 2017. If you don't have like notes and meetings on meetings on meetings of notes and things that you could be doing for digital integration, oh my God, I'm not even pissed. I'm just disappointed. You know what? You had one job. Somebody at Wizards had one job, which was, hey, you're in charge of, Magic Digital. I wonder what you could do if you could just have things be unlocked in the middle. I can't, because we've literally spoken about every one of those random crazy option things they could do. This will be for Magic Online, of course. And now we're starting the conversation. No, you're not. And if you are, sadness.
Shame on you.
Shame.
If you're actually just now discussing / trying to integrate physical product purchases with digital rewards, shame on you. I'm hoping that this is technobabble and that this is just like this is what we're saying, but suffice it to say that it's in the works. Okay, sure. They're figuring out how best to implement it. Fine. That's great. You can literally carbon copy do exactly what other card games do and have shown you that it is reasonable. Either World of Warcraft or Pokemon, there are a number of options for you to just literally copy and paste. Magic the Gathering doesn't have to be on the forefront, doesn't have to be the innovator of every little tiny thing. You already invented the genre. You're allowed to copy other people for very small things like this.
Well, also for very big things. Hashtag that Hearthstone money. But,
well, yeah.
Beyond that, it's totally okay to look at, other people as templates and what you can do. I think Wizards definitely wants the angle of promoting the local game store, because that is the lifeblood of Magic the Gathering, is your local game store. And I think Wizards definitely recognizes that. There's thousands of stores, all over the world. I think there's like 3,000 plus just in the U.S. alone. Making that important is great. But my God, this cannot be the start of that conversation. I don't believe it. I can't. I can't, because it hurts me. It hurts me deep. Because we've talked about it, I've talked about it multiple times over the years, and it's killing me. Okay. Beta date and much more, will be revealed on stream in 2 weeks. So that's kind of cool. Sure. Great. Sideboarding will exist in MTG Arena, confirmed on stream. So that's cool. That's a good thing.
That's an interesting change, because I didn't think that I thought they might not go in that direction. Considering the fact that they had to make so many different types of changes that are, integral to the Magic the Gathering experience.
Right.
Trading being the chief among them.
It's true.
The fact that sideboarding will exist means that multiple game matches are still going to be a thing, so they aren't going full Hearthstone with the 1-game matches.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this confirmation is actually the biggest news, I think, from this most recent info dump.
One thing, just a thought that crossed my head, because someone had mentioned redemption codes would be nice. If you do something like that, for the sake of, let's say, people who sell Magic cards, for a living, could you have a way to A, barcode whatever that code is, so you don't have to type it all, and B, have a website that says whether or not that code has been used? That would be great. Okay? Just think about that. If you haven't been thinking about that, think about that. Okay. Desperate Ravens. Let's move on. So, Erin, can you tell us a little bit about this contract for the GPs for 2018 showed up, and things about public liability insurance, and there's promises of there's going to be some sort of revisions of this. It's definitely a weird step forward, but it's a step that they're sort of taking to have everyone under the same contract, showing the contract before the event shows up, which, as I understand it, is very likely a sort of new and hot thing, is that you actually see the agreement that you have to agree to in order to judge the event. I've heard stories of judges just showing up to events, and they're like, okay, sign this, and you're like, but, and they're like, yeah, don't worry about it, all that crazy stuff, it says whatever, we just need this, for whatever legal reasons or something, and or you don't get to judge the event. It's like, surprise, this is what you're doing. So, Erin, what do you know about it?
Well, hot is a good word for it, Evan. You said it was a hot thing. From the looks of it, it appears to be a hot mess, is what it is. I know personally at least 2 judges where this has contributed to their decision to not judge in 2018. So this started on Reddit. There was a post made called "The First 2018 GP Up. Hope you have your public liability insurance." So that's a sneak preview of where this is going. So the first contract was released, or snippets of it were released for GP Santa Clara in January of next year. And there were a couple sections that really had people kind of scratching their heads. So you need effectively 3 years of public liability insurance to work for them. And this needs to be business insurance. Personal or travel insurance will not normally cover you when you're working. There is a clause 9.3, contractor must maintain the required public liability insurance. You are restricted in what you're allowed to say or do about them for 3 months after you work for them. Subsection 12.1, contractors should not at any time during performance of the agreement or within 3 months after directly or indirectly encourage or try to encourage any client to withdraw its custom from Tournament Center or any of its clients. So say that you're a judge and you have a friend who wants to work for them, and there also happens to be an SCG event. If you encourage your judge friend to go work for SCG, you are technically in violation of that clause. Tournament Center appears to be the mediator of this contract, and they are a Belgian company. There are a lot of references to taxes, and some judges were like, well, are these Belgian taxes? Like, what are we dealing with here? There are a lot of references to things that people are going, I don't know if this applies to us or to Belgian law. Can an American attorney even determine what's going on here? Contractor will not at any time, there's things about we can fire you on the spot kind of thing. This is sketchy as hell, and there's a lot of feedback about this, and yeah.
The thing about this is that this is very clearly a copied and pasted insurance deal that doesn't really apply to Magic judges. Like, they just found this thing from Belgium and decided that this was the closest they had. I don't think there's anything nefarious here. I don't think that this is like trying to actively screw anybody over. I just think that they just found something online, didn't do enough research, and then, when the backlash came at them, they were like, oh, we actually have to, fix this, which they're doing, to their credit. They're meeting with their attorneys, our insurance broker, tournament center, and our internal team, and they're going to have a solution by Friday, they say, in a response in the Reddit thread. Yeah, this Friday, October 13th at 5 p.m. Pacific, they will have an answer. I don't think there's anything nefarious here. I mean, obviously, on the one hand, there is the obvious concern that with Channel Fireball running all of the events, they can do whatever the hell they want. But on the other hand, you kind of need Magic judges to judge Magic events. So,
but it's the sum of the parts, though. It's the fact that we're already there are several pending lawsuits regarding how judges are treated and whether or not they're employees or not. And to see a contract like this that, again, is sort of dancing around that subject of, well, we want you to do all of these things, but we're also not necessarily guaranteeing you employment. The judge compensation has gone down. There are several judges that have reported they're simply not making as much as they used to. And so to ask them to pay for very expensive insurance at the same time, that you're also cutting their income, by itself, this isn't bad. But when you look at the climate for judges as a whole, it kind of adds up to not really being okay. I've also heard stories about how they're choosing their judges. Like, I've heard rumors that CFB was trying to build a core judge group that would work all of their events, but that they didn't necessarily tell certain people, so that people had applied for it. The people who got in knew that they were in, but the people who didn't know that until like the listings were posted. And so there's been all sorts of mishaps with the judges in CFB lately. I know several unhappy judges right now, people who normally would defend the program, against things like this, and are just not willing to do it anymore. And it's very sad and it's very scary because, like you said, we do need these people. And
this was a fixable issue, though.
Well, yeah, this. It definitely feels like they copy and pasted, and it definitely feels like they didn't read it. Like you got to read these things.
Who does that?
Because do you understand when you make these people get insurance for years?
Read it. I'm sure that this was used in the past, but when you're the only game in town, when you're the only people doing it, you're gonna have a lot more eyeballs on it, and that includes a lot more people with lawyer backgrounds. I'm sure that this functioned perfectly fine in the past because most of the time, if you're working a single weekend, you don't need insurance, right? Like, insurance is you don't need it till you need it, right? And if you're a Magic the Gathering judge working inside for a weekend, you usually don't need your insurance. It takes a lot of eyeballs to see all of these issues.
Where were those eyeballs when this went to print? Like, when I released my announcement for Team Cardhoarder Brazil, I had no less than 3 people scrutinize that thing, and I had to rewrite it the day before. Like, they would not let that go to print. Who let this go to print?
Apparently this was used for the Belgian GPs, right?
That's
so
crazy.
We used this in Ghent. Or whatever.
And what other people are saying is that, it says all this crazy stuff, but they're not going to enforce it. But you're legally agreeing to certain
signing a contract, people. Contracts are real. Words mean things. Like, what?
That's important. So, again, obviously, kudos to CFB. They're responding to it. They're going to get back to the world by 5 o'clock Pacific time this Friday. So the deadline has been set. And I hope they come back with something reasonable.
This is a very serious issue, but the good news is that both sides, the judges and CFB, are taking the issue as seriously as it deserves to be.
Yeah.
So while this is a news story, I believe that this is one that ends up with a happy ending.
Let's hope.
I hope so. So moving on here, there was another interesting Reddit thread because I was under an impression. When they said they were going to replace the F&M foils with double-sided tokens, I was like, oh, sweet. Well, I literally assumed, the first thing I assumed was they have to have new art, right? Like, they're the promo tokens, or why you show up. They're not. They have the same old artwork. They're not even full art. Like, they literally just slapped 2 tokens on each side and said, we're, GG's here. That's uninspiring. That's lazy. That's lackluster. This is the thread. But I fully agree with literally all 3 of those words. I can't believe promo cards were discontinued for this.
Yeah.
And, again, I understand that they're trying to make FNM more casual and to not make it all about the Benjamins and all about the fatal pushes and whatever. And they've had this weird thing where they've tried not to put cards that are too expensive there. And now they're finally saying, screw it, there's just tokens, who cares? Now it's really who cares. Because they're not even different tokens. They're not a different token art. They're not different token frame. They don't look or feel different. You know, if they had like maybe like the Ixalan border or whatever on these tokens because it's the Ixalan season or whatever. There's a million things that Wizards could do to make these things at least sound and look and, you know, be appealing, rather than say, hey, you know, those tokens that you got out of the packs, yeah, well, they're foil and there's one on each side now. Okay.
Yeah, great.
That's what you got. That's what you're giving me. That's the best you can do. And I felt like it was worth bringing up because, like, if this is where you're starting again, we started with a team series. Okay, maybe you should do that differently. Well, you're starting with this new FNM thing. Okay, maybe you should do that differently because this is bad and we can do better. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, I mean, this is literally a token prize, right? This is just like garbage. I think they can do better. They can at least make it full art. They can make it something inspiring. This feels like a door prize. You know, I don't know. They need to do something to make it more fun. I'm hoping that this is just a placeholder until whatever they're doing for Dominaria is going to happen, because whatever is happening right now isn't helping FNM, right? Like, I thought that the purpose of the FNM promo was to bring people in. And you're trying to craft this, like, honed, you know, high-tech missile to be able to bring the specific right kind of people in, as opposed to just having the Scud missile of foil fatal pushes bringing everybody in, right? Like,
I mean, viewer
I
Stan,
don't understand.
Viewer Stan Mikowski has it 100% correct. Wizards, why didn't you make a Jace token? Why does Jace have an ultimate that makes copies of himself, but yet there's no token in any of the Ixalan packs? This is the perfect place to put that token. This is like literally, you couldn't draw it up better. Hey, we're going to change the tokens from you know, actual cards to tokens. Well, hey, check out, this one's going to be Jace. Oh, you know, like no, this is just bad. You're just hurting me here, and you should do better. And this is this
feels worse than if they just discontinued FNM promos.
It just feels so lazy, man. Come on, this just feels like something that somebody who don't even know Magic will come up with. It's like, well, what if you gave him, you know, double-sided foil tokens that worked in random other products, you know? And you're like, yeah, no. Okay, moving on. It's just weird. A lot of these stories this week are like, frustration, feel pain, move on. Okay, great.
Right.
Erin, what did they do to 1v1 Commander? Because, my God, they've banned a whole ton of stuff.
Not enough to make me start playing it, okay? So MTGO Commander 1v1 banned announcement. This is official. I apologize for the previous episode. I guess there's French Commander and Dual Commander. I had kind of joked about how some burn spells were banned, and that was not this. So I apologize for that miscommunication. That was 100% my fault. But this is the legitimate 1v1 banned announcement from Magic Online. Cards added to banned list. It feels like they're banning things all the time. Baral, Chief of Compliance, Demonic Tutor, Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn, Enlightened Tutor, Imperial Seal, Mystical Tutor, and Vampiric Tutor. So tutors are out.
No tutor.
Tutors are no longer acceptable in this format. Baral is out, which doesn't surprise me. I think that it had been one of the strongest blue decks even back from the time I tried to play this format. Emrakul is banned in multiplayer Commander, which doesn't surprise me. It's a very interesting twist. They also removed 2 cards from their ban list. Arkham Dagson, hey girl, and Yisan the Wanderer Bard, and then there was some explanation for why these bans were made, and they seem to make sense. Like, people who love the format were very happy with these changes, and I just keep waiting for, I keep wanting to dip my toe back into it, but it's just so damn spiky, and I just don't like my EDH that way. So, but kudos to the people who are going to benefit from this.
I mean, the way they kind of bring it is that tutors. If you ever want to go back and be like, hey, why do tutors like hurt card games? I want you to go look up Versus System, okay? Because they literally ruined that game with tutors. Because what happens with tutors, it's not that any individual tutor is that awesome or amazing, and or if it's costed correctly, it's fine too. Like, for example, if it's 4 mana versus 2 mana. But when you have so many tutors that are so easily cast, you create something that happens, a game state that happens over and over again. And when you have that consistency, that's where the better player always wins. If I'm consistently getting, you know, the things I need, and I know how it works, and I can play, you know, well, the time versus system better than you, then Brian Kibler and all of his friends are going to bring all of of the ridiculous tutors in one deck and kill you with them. And like tutor on tutor on tutor on tutor is how Versus system died. And this is, they're basically saying, you know, if we could lower the consistency a little bit by getting rid of all these tutors, we will improve the format as a whole.
To a lesser extent, it's also how Callblade ruined Standard, and we lost a lot of players because every game was exactly the same.
Yeah, my friend, I was playing with my local EDH group the other day, and my friend Christina was running the Mono Black Sidisi as her commander, the one that exploits and gets to tutor. And she was able to piece the combo together of Revel in Riches and Mutilate. And so she got to a point where she dropped Revel the Riches, and we were like, oh, that's cute, girl. And then she was like, Mutilate. And then she wipes the board, gets enough treasure tokens, and she's like, all right, so you guys got a turn to destroy this or get rid of my 15 treasure tokens. And we were like, we're looking at our crappy commanders, and we were like, we got nothing. And so, yeah, it was really dope. But like you said, the fact that she was able to exploit sort of the command zone of, well, I'm going to send Sidisi to the graveyard every time. I'm going to bring her back with my Palace Siege, and I'm just going to find this combo. And it was like, it was out of control.
It is interesting to me that they unbanned Arkham Dagson and Yisan the Wanderer Bard, both of themselves tutors. Although focused tutors. They're very specific tutors.
And
Arkham
creatures.
Dagson, yes, and also creatures, so you have a turn to respond to them usually, and the things that they search out are very specified. And so I thought that was an interesting thing. From what I understand, 1v1 Commander these days is the closest thing that you can get to Cube, but building your own deck out of Cube. And so that is interesting to me. And so I've toyed with the idea of getting a 1v1 deck together. Haven't really pulled the trigger yet, but certainly paying more attention to the banned and restricted announcements.
It's always fun when they come down, they say all of this crap gone. Just go on, just go home, done with it. So unfortunately, we don't have time for our blast from the past. Maybe next week, because that's why it's a blast from the past can be moved anytime ever. But we are going to turn the corner to the finisher. However, first, so I won't do this like I do every time, we're going to go pick a winner. That's what we're doing. We're winners. We're drawing winners. I'm drawing them right now. Let's see who wins a copy of Legend of the Five Rings, the card game.
Bonsai.
Mr. Jason C. from Alexander City, Alabama.
Nice.
Yeah, if you could hit us up on Twitter would be the best way, at Magic Mike's Cast. Jason C. and from Alexander City, Alabama, congratulations. You have won a copy of Legend of the Five Rings, the card game. I will get it to you ASAP. If you could hit me up on Twitter, let me know what your last name is, for example, and we'll take it from there. So congratulations to Jason, and we turn the corner officially to the finisher. Last week, it was announced that on December 15th, after 20 years, AOL will be discontinuing America Online Instant Messenger Service, better known as AIM. This is a huge blow to many who use the long-running instant messenger service that was core to many people's first social experiences on the internet. So as we set our away messages and tag our availability statuses for the last time, how will you remember AIM, Reuben?
America Online Instant Messenger taught a 12-year-old Reuben how to text, how to ask out, and more importantly, break up with girls over the internet. And most importantly, how to announce my teenage angst on social media via good Charlotte lyrics.
They really got you, didn't they?
They did. They
this
spoke to me. Alternating caps and lower caps with the wavies and the asterisk emoticons.
Erin?
RIP America Online Instant Messenger. I won't say rest in peace because you know me. I will honor this solemn occasion, though, by opening a door and shutting it, and opening it again and shutting it until my crush finally pays attention to me.
So for those who aren't old enough to get that reference, when you would sign on,
somebody,
you hear a door open. When you would sign off, you hear slam.
Notice me.
Senpai. So AIM is going the way of the dodo. It makes me a bit nostalgic for that late 90s, early 2000s internet quaintness in a way that these days I really only get from one other program. One thing that I use on nearly a daily basis, and one that I truly look forward to joining AIM in the big CD recycling center in the sky. Of course, the archaic and frustrating slice of nostalgia I'm referring to is the NES Classic.
Oh, I thought you were...
I don't know about that, but I have an SNES Classic.
Look at you.
Is that what we're talking about?
Wow. Also, that thing is very tiny, for those who don't know.
It's very tiny, yeah. It's like 2 deck boxes worth of width. So
that said, That brings us to another episode. It ends another episode, rather, of Magic Mics. Thank you for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Reuben.
Bye.
Here we go to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, Cardhoarder.com, my co-hosts, Aaron Campbell and Reuben Bressler, and you guys for watching, and hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMics. Visit our website at MagicMicsPodcast.com that exists thanks to our Patreon supporters, or follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe, do everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online at Twitch.tv/MagicMics, on Twitter at MagicMicsCast, on Reddit at Reddit.com/r/MagicMics, and on Facebook at Facebook.com/MagicMics. Talk to us privately at MagicMicsPodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at MagicMicsPodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.
Door slam noise.